VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker. This is our first transmission, believe it or not, since the draft. Of course, it was just last night. We have a lot to unpack. It just happens to be our somewhat new Fan Friday segment. And we have a brand new fan, Ian Joseph, out in Los Angeles. He and I share Laker fandom. We're not talking about that today, damn it. How are you, Ian?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Not bad. And Chris, you were with me Friday. You're back for a sequel.
I'm
We got a
back,
lot to
yeah.
talk about. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
Doing marvelous. Let's get into it. We had your bio last week, Chris, but for our viewers, Ian, how long have you been a Viking fan, and why did you come to this team?
I've been a Viking fan since the 1987 season. I officially jumped on when they beat the hell out of the 49ers in the playoffs that year. That was the Anthony Carter year, that lovely. And I was 11 at the time, and I just stayed with the team. And, just through college. And then ultimately in 2011, when the team sucked, I had an opportunity to become a season ticket holder. So I took the leap, and I've been one ever since. Anyone that's interested, section C4, row 9, seats 11 through 14 on the 40-yard line if you're ever interested in going.
Wow.
Just a little shameless plug for myself, but reach out. Put her handle. There you go.
How many games do you physically get to, out of curiosity?
On average, maybe in Minnesota, one a year.
Okay.
I didn't go last year, but typically one a year.
Okay.
The Green Bay game, I went to the 2016 opener.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, you had to go. I wasn't going to sell that game.
Oh, I think I lost him for a second.
He froze.
It's all good.
Am I good?
Yeah, now you're back.
Okay.
There you are.
I'm hoping that it's not my internet signal that acts up sometimes. But anyway, but yeah, on average once a year.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. So we got some biographies here. Let's get into the minutia. So last night, the Vikings did not leverage first-round draft capital from the future when a lot of us, hey, first of all, I was wrong. I thought the pick would be Drake May, so I have to admit my error. I was utterly incorrect. They somewhat sticked and picked with J.J. McCarthy, and kudos to Amir, who we had on last weekend, and he said, what happens if McCarthy falls? And we were like, God, I just don't know if that happens. But let's I want to get your temperature. This would be a really weird show if I didn't get your reactions to the Vikings night. Ian, I'm going to start with you as the newcomer. Tell me about J.J. McCarthy. Tell me about Dallas Turner. And what's your temperature right now?
I'm going to be honest. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited because it's not just about those two players, especially Dallas Turner. I mean, we got an absolute stud at 17, and we still kept that 2025 first-round pick. Mm-hmm. Man, that right there is enough for me because we got JJ without having to give it up. Mm-hmm. And we got this guy too and didn't have to give it up. Look here, I'm doing that just wave right now like I'm in church. I'm excited. JJ wasn't my first choice. I really am a Michael Penix guy. I was at the USC versus Washington game, so I saw him live and he's a monster. But JJ's a winner. Mm-hmm. And you can't deny, regardless of what the game plan might have been in Michigan and whatnot, that dude's a winner. And so I'll take that kind of moxie over somebody else and certainly trading all these picks away all day long. So I don't know that we could have done much better. People will say, well, we gave up too many mid-round picks, but you guys hated both Rick and when Quasey would draft all these people in the mid-rounds and trade down. So which one are we going to go with? I'm good with it. I like the risk, and it is what it is. And between that and $100 million in cap space, and even if, Justin Jefferson's about to get a deal, and even when Darisaw gets his deal next year, it's still going to be about $70 million. Jesus Christ, what do you want? So I'm very happy.
Yeah, on the Dallas Turner thing, some of our viewers might recall back in January and February, which now feels like eons ago, when there was a realistic chance that Cousins would be back and we were analyzing what the Vikings would do with the 11th pick, I wanted Dallas Turner at that spot. If we were really going to go full-blown Kirk for 2 more years or so, which, like I said, it feels like a long time ago now, that was a real possibility. And I was like, well, if they're going to do that, I don't know that we want to have a rookie quarterback chill for 2 or 3 years, we could. I don't know if the fans would have the patience for it. But Dallas Turner was the guy labeled because he was so young. He also stuffs the run a little bit. He's not a one-trick pony. And then Alabama guys rarely from the first round just flop. And so that was my guy in the version of if they were going to re-sign Kirk. So for him to tumble because of this offense priority by the whole league, yeah, I thought it was marvelous that Dallas Turner almost fell into the lap of whichever team wanted him, and ultimately was the Vikings. And yeah, you're correct on that free agent piggy bank. They're going to need it because they did diminish substantially the mid-round draft capital for certainly tonight and then next year. So that will be paramount to use those free agent dollars. And JJ McCarthy, of course. If we weren't going to get Drake May, I was certainly happy with McCarthy. So that's my feeling, and I'll get into that extensively over the next couple months. Chris, it's your turn. Your reaction to night number 1 of the Vikings draft.
Quick to piggyback off that. Yes, they lost some mid-round draft capital, but they're going to get comp picks next year for the Kirk Cousins deal. The tampering from Atlanta, they're going to get a pick from that, right? Whether it's a 3rd or 4th round pick. So they're going to have picks. They're going to have their 1st round pick. They're going to have some comp picks from the loss of free agents. So while, yes, it looks like they have a 1st, a 5th, and a 6th next year, they're going to have a little bit more to play with. And I think they're going to maybe slightly use that. We'll get back into that a little bit into later. I'm ecstatic. Once the Giants picked that
Neighbors.
Once JJ fell past 6, who was going to trade up and get him, right?
Falcons.
Like
Think about that. Oh my God. Think if it was
just nuts.
I kept thinking about that when I was trying to fall asleep last night. What if, like, unbeknownst to us altogether, what if the pick would have been McCarthy to the Falcons and they got both of the quarterbacks, but go ahead.
Vikings Twitter would have went ape shit.
Oh my
Let's
goodness.
be honest here. They would have, well, why did you trade up to get him at number 7? Blah, 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 blah. No, I think it's good. They got their guy from just watching the videos, from the draft room. And Dallas Turner, like, holy smokes. Brian Flores is going to eat offenses alive with what they did in the free agency, who they got, and now they got Dallas Turner. He was the consensus number 1 defensive guy in the draft. So getting him at 17, they went and got their guys. They knew who they wanted. They went and did it. And it's the complete opposite of what Spielman and that regime did. So it's awesome to see them do what they need to do because they understand that their window is not that you get a small window in the NFL, right? And you have to take it. So, and listening just to crowd reaction at the draft party and even in Detroit last night was just phenomenal. I didn't get draft. I was at a
oh no
family fun night for my daughter at school.
Okay.
So that trumps everything else. But I was sitting, and I think I tweeted this out last night. Maybe you saw it. We were sitting in the cafeteria. People, kids are eating ice cream, and all I looked around and every dad is on their phone, just watching the draft. Yep. So it was pretty cool. I was one of them. I'll admit, but it's a good day to be a Vikings fan.
I did that, believe it or not, at a wedding for a preseason game, like about 2 years ago, and my wife's like, "It's just preseason." I was like, "I still got to write about it tonight. I don't want to bullshit my way through it." So a couple things there. When we say the best defensive player in the draft, of course we got to see it pans out. But we say that because you saw the absolute run on offensive players, and most credible mock drafts in the days or weeks leading up had Dallas Turner going to the Falcons at number 8 as the first defensive player off the board. And so it's not that we're saying that he's the best defensive player in the draft just because the Vikings got him. It's that when the defensive run started, it was supposed to be Turner at 8 to the Falcons. So that's why this came out. And then on the compensatories, they got one what we think for sure. If we have kind of like this faux deadline, if Dalton Risner signs somewhere by May 1st, the Vikings will get an extra one. So we kind of are on pins and needles for the next 3 or 4 days. You want Dalton Risner to sign somewhere because when they signed Shaq Griffin, that kind
That
of
took away. Yeah.
that mucked up the formula, but it can be restored right after the draft here if some team gets their poop in the group and signs Risner. So just an important
But
caveat.
would you
Go ahead.
want Risner on the team, right? Would you want him
Oh
back
yeah,
at left
I
guard?
would like.
Oh,
Absolutely. Oh
I-
yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah, I think that's still an option. I can't figure out for the life of me why no team ever wants him in free agency. He doesn't seem like a prick. He's not going to be crazy expensive. His forte is pass protection, and I just cannot figure out why back-to-back free agencies he's the guy that's completely left out.
that's super strange. But hey, if the Vikings can get him at let's say 2 years, 14, right?
Yeah.
So 7, 8 a year, like that's why not, right?
Yeah,
Like
do that in a second.
100%.
I think it's about his representation, honestly, because he fired his agent and went with an agent that's got a lot of players that are already with the team. And so whether that means he resigns or not is to be seen. But I think it's more so his representation and maybe how they go about negotiating where teams are like, you know what, we can get younger and cheaper for a longer period of time than you. And there it goes. So
He's
Probably
still a
what it
young
is.
dude, though, isn't he? Like he's still
28.
26. I mean, okay, 28.
But guards
mean-
can play until they're 35. So
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then 2 years, 3 years, maybe, and go 7 million a year. That's cheap in the NFL, right? So why not
Mhm.
take that risk? And it's a high risk, high reward type of thing, right? Like
Absolutely.
the dude balled out
Stabilizes the
last year.
line.
Oh, 100%. Now you just need to.
Especially, yeah, if you're running a rookie quarterback, which very well they could do. So,
Yep.
Let's get into some more draft stuff. So, to reiterate to anybody that might be a casual fan, the Vikings have no picks tonight. So, if you're going to sit down and watch the draft, God love you. We will all do that, barring a function. But the Vikings are not supposed to spend any picks tonight. So, I want to ask you, Ian, what do you expect from the Vikings tonight, if anything, or particularly on Saturday when they get back on track and have, 5 picks? What is your expectation after seeing what we consider a pretty sweet Thursday night?
you know what? I think they're going to lay low in the second round. I think it's going to be too much capital to move up into the second round. It's going to cost the 2025 first to do it, or a player who I don't even know who you'd want to trade at this point. And I don't even know what players on our team outside of Jefferson is even worth a second round pick. And
I'll
we're
get to
definitely
that
not
in a
doing
minute.
that. So somebody wants Darnold for one, I'll do it in a second. But I think this second round just going to lay low. I think that towards the end of the third round is going to be that sweet spot for the Vikings because there may be somebody who's dropped a little bit where, Quessy will try to maybe get to the top of the fourth round. But if he can't get to the top of the fourth round, maybe gets a little froggy and jumps to the end of the third round, maybe in the compensatory area. Now that you can trade those picks, been able to do that for a minute. But that's my bold prediction that you'll see the Vikings sniff around. I don't know that we'll actually see it because we won't see the negotiations and whatnot. But if they're coming, it'll be in the last 10 picks of the third round.
Okay. And what about Saturday when they actually will be one of the most stocked teams starting at 108? Do you expect like a defensive tackle? Is there a guy that you like that you've been enamored with for the last couple months?
So I expect them to go heavy interior defense. They're going to take at least 2 guys. They'll take a corner. They're going to take another receiver. I'm interested in Brendan Rice. I think he would be a great number 3 for this team, and he'd be cheap. And if he turns into anything close to his father, hey, we win. The guy that I'm on, and it's not at a premium position these days, I am on Dylan Johnson from Washington. That dude, running back, that dude is a monster. And I feel like the combination of him and Aaron Jones in that backfield, I mean, I love Ty Chandler. I'm off on Kene at this point. He's just that guy that never really turned into anything. And I'm not from Missouri, so he can't show me nothing no more. I'm just being honest. I would love to see Dylan Johnson. That's a guy that I'm on, and I'm going to be watching to see where he goes.
Okay. Are you a fantasy football player too?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. You kind of sounded like a fantasy football player there with that take. That's why I was so pissed last night about Brock Bowers going to the Raiders. What are we doing? That's the worst. If you play Dynasty fantasy football, it doesn't get much worse than that because a lot of folks own Michael Mayer stock, and I have sweet picks that I had plans for Brock Bowers, but now he's going to the shitty Raiders, and I'm like, oh God. So I digress. This is not Raiders now. Chris, tell me your. Let's see. I think the next segment we're going to get into some bold predictions if you want to be thinking about that, Ian, in addition to Dylan Johnson. But your reasonable expectations, Chris, for tonight, if anything, and then Saturday where the Vikings will be busy.
I agree. I think they're going to lay low. I think Kwesi might try to get up maybe into the third round, maybe end the second round, depending on what they would have to give up, right? So it's all going to depend on how the board falls, man. If you get some of those top end D-backs that fall down like Kool-Aid, right? I don't think he gets past, I don't think he gets out of the 30s. I think he's going to go high second round, but you get that kind of talent that drops into the late second, early third, and you want to do it, and that's your guy, go get him, right? So, but I don't think they will. I think they'll sit back and watch how the things fall. Going into the fourth and fifth round, I think they're going to load up on depth if they can. On the as Ian said, I think the interior line on the defense and offensive line to try and shore that up a little bit. If you can get Sweat in the early fourth round, man, that would be huge. That Kwesi wins the draft if you can get him in the fourth round. Yeah, I think once that fourth round is done, it's going to be depth guys.
Okay.
And
try to get linemen. I think it's going to be offensive linemen because
I agree with you.
They only have 9 guys. Last year they had 16 in training camp.
And when you said on PA earlier this week, I think is spot on. You got to have depth, especially at the O line, because you don't know who can go down at any given time. So having that would be huge. So I think that's what they'll do. I think they're going to lay low and they're going to enjoy watching that. And if they can move up, they're going to move up. And I think I agree. At the end of the third round, top of the fourth round is when we're going to see Kwesi try and work some more magic.
I've got, I'm going to sabotage myself. I have an article coming out here in about a half hour when I finish it up. There are 3 ways the Vikings can get back into tonight. And one is outrageous, but I had to throw it in there. The first one is pretty boring. It's getting into that 90 to 102 range like you guys are talking about, the bottom of the third round. And it'd be pretty easy. You basically trade 108 and your first 6th-round pick. And that's the most straightforward method. So if they love a guy at number 90, 94, something like that, it's pretty straightforward. They can trade their 108 and their 6th-round pick, their first one, or is that their only one now? Yeah, I think it's their only one. No, do they have 2 6th? Yeah. So their 4th and their 6th is a pretty reasonable price to get into that 95 range. So that's the boring way, probably the most likely way. The other way, kind of that same range, is trading the 4th-round pick plus Lewis Cine or Andrew Booth. If you're ready to give up on them, that's the other method. If some team thinks that they can, actually let those guys play and maybe they'll be good, that would be the pick plus player. And then the one that probably won't happen but is available would be the Brian O'Neill method, because you can probably get damn near anything you want after about pick 40-something if you wanted to trade Brian O'Neill. And the only reason I mention him is because he's one of the most expensive players on the roster. And there are a couple guys like David Bakhtiari, Charles Leno, DJ Humphries that are free agents. So in theory, if there was a player that they were salivating over right now and they wanted to get into round 2, you could trade O'Neill and then you could get your 2nd rounder, turn around, sign Bakhtiari, and that would be the way of it. And the only reason I included that is for the what if. I don't think they're going to trade Brian O'Neill, nor should they, but that would be kind of option because he's one of the most handsomely paid right tackles in the sport. So those are the 3 ways. If we don't want a boring Friday night, the first one is probably the most realistic, where they're one of their guys that they've loved for 4 months. Falls to 90 and they're like, well, shit, we're going to do what we've done all weekend or all week. We're going to just trade a couple mid to late rounders to get higher on the board. All right, let's do some bold prediction stuff. These are designed to be kind of out there. I know you already have one. Ian, do you have any more brewing that the Vikings might pull off between now and I guess the end of Saturday night? Because we'll all be on UDFA watch hoping to find the next Ivan Pace.
All right, here's one. Vikings going to take another quarterback.
Quarterback?
If you get to the 6th round, the 7th round, and a guy like Joe Milton is there,
wow,
take him. Why not? He's He's essentially what
That is
Washington
bold.
did with RG3 and ironically Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Project stash him, see what he turns into. If he turns into something special, because you're banking on JJ being the guy. If he turns into something special, dish him later and get something for him. But who knows? Let's bold prediction, quarterback later in the
Wow.
draft.
Okay. Yeah. So that would mean we wouldn't have a shortage of human beings at that spot. It would be Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall, and then Joe Milton. So may the
And you're
best
going to
man
need
win.
arms in camp and during the preseason because of the cut down. So if whoever your starter is going to be, you're not going to run them out there too much. So why not? Let's see.
All right, Chris, you got one that you haven't revealed yet, a bold prediction between now and Saturday at midnight?
I think the bold prediction, they find somehow to trade back into the upper edges of the second round and draft another defensive guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What method would they use?
I don't know. I mean,
Gunpoint.
Quasey's like F them picks, right? Like if you can go get guys that have first round talent and first round grades and you get them in the second round, why not, right? Like draft picks 90% of the time really don't pan out, especially the later rounds you go. But that I don't know. I don't know how they would do it. That's just my bold pick that they're going to go up and they're going to find a guy that they want and they'll find some way to do it. Whether now you start getting into 2026 draft picks, you know,
Yeah,
that
that's
kind of type
another
of thing. So they have that, right? They have cap space next year and the year after, right? So if they don't have draft picks, they can go get the free agents they want to fill those holes because now you're surrounding all this young talent with guys who've been in the NFL who can help them grow, who can help them mature and develop their game a little bit more. So that's my bold pick. And I think if they do it, it's going to be in the 30s, low 40s.
Okay, that would if they were gonna bleed into 2026. I mean, we never have a second round pick ever again. That would be 3 straight years of second rounders that are vanished. But in theory, that would work in the range you're talking about. If you gave them your 2026 second and then your fourth from this year, you probably could get somewhere in the second round. We shall see, because that would. I guess the main priority there would be the preservation of all first rounders, hell or high water. They showed that was, and the other thing, this just came to mind. We're talking about that. The reason that they had to spend what they spent, some of my people told me, was the Broncos were nibbling with the Jets. So that's that's what happened. And so that's why the Vikings had to spend a little bit more than folks were like, oh, because it was only one spot away and it wasn't worth the risk because you're down to Bo Nix. That would have been that would have been it. So all right, gentlemen. Chris, I know you had a good time. This is back-to-back segments for you.
I
Ian,
appreciate it, man.
Yeah, Ian, did you enjoy yourself?
You know what I did? First time doing a podcast. That's a lie.
Really?
First time doing one where I'm actually, it's my face. I got another buddy on Twitter. We did a couple ones, but first one like this, a lot of fun. Love talking purple with passionate people, but also smart people. I don't like all that blind fan. Just gonna throw out these wild things with no base to them. So awesome. I'm excited. I'm happy to have been here. Would love to do it again.
Yeah.
It's up to you, not me. But again, I enjoyed this very much.
Oh, well, now it's up to you. We've already shown we enjoy Chris. So whenever, I mean, if you want to get, both of you want to get on a schedule, you both have really good grounded takes. And I agree. That's the reason I started this show. Cause I got sick of seeing like not raw bullshit, but the pendulum swinging podcasts. I couldn't stand how it was like, oh, the hot take of the day. And like everything was so outrageous. I wanted something that was in the middle, that was objective. And I hope that I do that to an extent. So yeah, you guys let me know when you're available. We can do this pretty much whenever. And then kick back and watch tonight and see if any of our bold predictions or trade methods occur. Certainly Saturday, clear out your schedules because that will be a busy day for these Vikings.
Sir, looking forward to it.
Let's go.
All right, you guys take it easy and we'll talk to you next time, all right?
Oh, good. Appreciate you.
Yeah, later.
Bye, guys.
All right.